Welcome to the Call The Midwife podcast.
Welcome back. We are three superfans, and each week we watch an episode of Call The Midwife and talk about it. I'm Becky.
I'm Alex.
I'm Jen. A reminder that this week's episode deals with death and dying, severe illness, severe poverty, and racism. So if those topics are ones you would prefer to skip this time, we understand and hope you join us for the next one. In this week's episode, it is Christmas in Poplar. Everyone is celebrating together when a call comes from the Mother House. Hope Clinic in South Africa, a missionary hospital run by the Order, is in dire straits. The managing head nun has passed, and a support trip, an inquiry and review of its ability to keep open and running must be made. A team is put together to go. Sister Julienne, Sister Winifred, Trixie, Barbara, Phyllis, Sheila, Patrick, and Fred. Once at Hope Clinic, they realize the operation is in dire straits. Dr. Myra, the head and only physician, is severely limited in resources in every capacity. Medications of all types are rationed, and a water shortage threatens to shut down the clinic as basic hygiene won't be possible without it. Tom and Fred set to the water problem, and Tom finds its access to a spring via a route through Mr. Stark's property the main issue. Dr. Myra tells Sister Julienne that she took care of Mrs. Stark during childbirth many years ago, and after the mother and baby both died of health issues unrelated to the birth, she was blamed for their loss. Mr. Stark has held a grudge ever since. Sister Julienne visits him to make a plea for a change of heart, but leaves thinking she has been unsuccessful. Meanwhile, Dr. Turner and Sheila are running a polio vaccination clinic, and Trixie, Barbara, and Phyllis are caring for expectant mothers seeking care from the clinic. Phyllis delivers Fazika's baby under a tree with Fred's help. Barbara and Trixie have to tell Rosa that she has been experiencing pseudocytosis, or a false pregnancy. When Constance goes into labor, the birth turns dangerous, and the only option is an emergency cesarean section, which Trixie must perform. Dr. Turner and Sheila have taken Dr. Myra in town to seek treatment for a liver abscess and won't be back until the next day at least. Constance and the baby survive, and when Sister Julienne is bathing the little one for the first time with the barely dampened cotton balls, Mr. Stark arrives to speak with her. He immediately sees the dire need for water, and he grants access to his land so the clinic can get the water they need. Last, the trip has also resulted in a big change for Barbara and Tom as well. Tom proposes to Barbara, and she says yes! Such good news. Such good news. Okay, girls. So we had discussed this. I just want to do for our audience a little quick explainer about some of the context for this episode, because the whole cast, the whole team has obviously flown to South Africa, and they are there in 1962. So there's a couple of cultural and political and social things I think we just need to cover. So they never use the word in the episode, but there's kind of allusion or implication of apartheid, which is happening in South Africa at times. So apartheid is the South African or Afrikaans word for separateness or aparthood, and it was a system of institutionalized racial segregation that existed in South Africa and Southwest Africa, now Namibia, from 1948 to the early 1990s. I'm going to paraphrase, but I'm going to kind of read from the research that I got off Wikipedia about this. So it is a authoritarian political culture based on bossship, which is kind of a slang term, which ensured that South Africa was dominated politically, socially, and economically through a minority rule by the nation's dominant minority white population. It was a system of social stratification. White citizens had the highest status, and then followed by all the other people of color from other than them in the culture, in the nation. Economic legacy and social effects of apartheid are still present to this day. So there are two parts of this. It was delineated into something called petty apartheid and grand apartheid. Petty apartheid means a segregation of public facilities and social events, and grand apartheid, which dictated housing and employment opportunities by race. They also had a lot of segregation against intermarriage relationships, Population Registration Act, which I think Rosa talks about, having to go into town to work because she's a secretary and having to have a pass to go into town, to get a job, to come home from town. So those were all ways of social control. So really, really terrible thing that went on for a very long time, unfortunately. It was only in the early 1990s that the African National Congress was the leading anti-apartheid political movement. We all know about Nelson Mandela. He was a huge figure there. He was a big leader on that effort, and apartheid legislation was repealed on the 17th of June in 1991. And then they had their first first multiracial elections in 1994. So that's kind of the place that we're in right now in South Africa. I will say, for our American listeners who know some of our civil rights history, this to me, when I was researching it, sounded very much like the Jim Crow South, where there was a lot of segregation and separation and laws that were really restrictive for especially Black Americans, but also Americans of color. So that's a really tough legacy, but I think an important context to know where we are in terms of this episode and them being there. And then just to say a word about many of the patients that are being served in the clinic, they are a member of, and I did listen to the pronunciation of this word many times. I hope that I'm pronouncing this right. It's the Xhosa people. It's a group in the Cape provinces of South Africa. They are an ethnic group, and they are the largest ethnic group in South Africa and are native speakers of that Xhosa language. Presently, there are over 9 million Xhosa speaking people distributed across the country. It's one of Southern Africa's most populous languages. They're a huge group, but that is the majority of the people that they are treating in the clinic when they come. And I just thought that was really interesting, and they deserve kind of their spotlight in terms of the context of this episode. So I've said a lot. I'll go back to letting you guys talk, but I appreciate just letting me kind of share some of that before we get into the big podcast here.
Well done.
Okay, thanks.
You've done more than me. Carry on.
That's okay. We all do our part.
Actually, yeah, you've not done more than me, actually. Yeah.
So this was a really unusual Christmas special, because Christmas was only really blink and it's gone.
Yeah.
But
yeah, it was hardly kind of even mentioned, was it?
Yeah, I do need to. There are a couple of things though. Angela dressed as a nurse at the Christmas table.
Oh,
so cute.
Angela was so cute anyway the whole time.
She's adorable.
Given that Sister Evangelina is barely cold, the toast to absent friends was very cheery.
Exactly what I thought.
Only Sister Monica Jones seemed to be dwelling's not the right word, is it?
Sad. Just like even thinking of her.
Yeah. I know.
So it's after Christmas dinner that they get the call about going out to Hope Clinic.
Well, hang on 1 second. Also, Fred was Father Christmas to loads of tiny newborns. Absolute waste of his energy and time, but I loved it.
But also the knitted booties that he was hanging up on their cribs.
No, the stockings.
So cute.
So cute.
So they get the calls. They have to go out to South Africa. Sheila's done a bit of a turnaround here, because she's very quick to say that London is very full of locums and that they should just go. Also, who is Granny Parker? Why have we never met her before?
He's begging to have the children. Now, Granny Parker, I was thinking, well, Sheila, if you remember, when she was buying a wedding dress, was saying that her mum died when she was younger, right? So it can't be her mum, right? Then it's not Turner, because surely that'd be his mum. So is Granny Parker Tim's mum's mum?
The faded extended family that we have literally been wondering about for so long. That's
who I think Granny Parker is.
Why has she not visited Tim before now?
Maybe she visits all the time and she just doesn't want to face on the camera, so she's just not there.
I wonder if they're saying she's like a Mrs. B. You know what I mean? Like omnipresent but never seen. You know, where like audience just assume that this person is around all the time. They're not going to be in our stories, but like they're just here. And I'm like, well, thank God, finally we hear about something, because I don't know. I know I've voiced my concerns about the lack of, or Tim's biological mother being completely erased. But anyways.
Well, that's who I think Nanny Parker is.
I think you're exactly right. I think that makes the most sense.
Yeah.
There's 2 reasons they're going out to South Africa. So they're going to do a polio vaccination program, which obviously strikes a chord with Sheila and Dr. Turner.
Yeah.
But also, it's not sister. Is it Mother Felicity?
Oh, I thought it was Sister Felicity.
Oh, Sister Felicity, Mother Felicity.
Felicity, she's carked it. Anyway.
I have to admit, I didn't really pay attention to her name because she was gone from the word go. So I was like, I can only keep track.
No, the Nartons have lost Sister Evangelina and then Felicity. Not in the space of, they've lost a few quick.
Mm-hmm.
But I just need to make this point. She died of amoebic dysentery.
Oh my goodness.
Oh God, horrible way to go. Horrible.
But whenever throughout the episode they announce that she's died, they don't just say, sadly she's died. They say, sadly she's died. And then they pause and they say, of dysentery.
Yeah, but also an awful way to go. Awful way to go.
If I ever die of dysentery, don't announce my cause of death whenever you inform
I won't tell anyone. I'll be like, oh yeah, she passed really quick. No, I won't say, or I'll just be like, I don't know.
Well,
So when we meet Dr. Myra, she said she died in harness. And I was like, what? Well, so that means that she died while she was still working or she was still on duty.
yeah.
Oh, I
Also-
genuinely was thinking of like a contraption.
Like they put her in a sling.
Yeah.
I will just say I'm not going to go into detail about this, but we've dysentery. I was watching some historical thing, and like we all think of dysentery as kind of like just like a very very bad upset stomach, and I think a lot of people kind of liken it to what that is, maybe like stomach flu or something like that in terms of the symptoms. And I'm not going to say more because we don't need to talk about the details. But just to say, there was a historical thing I was watching, and they were talking about dysentery, and just it's that, but it is on like steroids. Like it's just an absolutely completely severe case of that. So I feel like sometimes it's not maybe given as, and I'm not saying that you guys are, but I sometimes feel like it's not given as much seriousness maybe as it really deserves. But it's just a very 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 horrible thing to go through. And so anyways, I don't know why I felt I had to make that point, but just I feel like sometimes people just think it's like really bad diarrhea, and it's 8,000 times worse. Sorry.
Well, yeah, we're aware of that, which is why we don't want people to know about it when we we die of it.
Yeah, so I just felt bad. For, and they do say that the hygiene issue is part of the reason why they think she caught it in the first place.
Well, yeah, because they've not got clean water because they've missed the start.
Yeah, and when they show up, Dr. Myra is like, oh my God, thank goodness. I can't believe it took less time to get something shipped here with you guys from London than it did to get it out of like the home office clearance bay or something, like where like the stuff that I asked for has been basically languishing in customs for God knows how long,
Well, yeah, because obviously it's for the Black community, and the border control showed the disregard they had for Black people, didn't they?
Yeah, and the part of the reason that I had wanted to talk about apartheid is because the white soldiers that are kind of the military rule in this episode that come up a few times are very rude and mean. And so
awful.
Yeah, so the way that they're treating the patients of this clinic, and then even the people who care for the patients of this clinic by default, is just terrible. So it's affecting every part of life. And even when that community tries to kind of stay separate, they still aren't left alone. They're still harassed and regulated, and all of that all the time. So yeah.
And we first meet them when they're on the bus to the clinic,
right?
And they come in and inspect everybody's passports.
Mm-hmm.
I did the bit made me laugh though, where he's looking at Trixie's passport and she gives him like a best smile. And he's like, don't smile.
Yeah.
Do you know what? At the start, I very naively was like, oh, maybe this is a love interest for Trixie. And then I was like, no, this is very much not that.
And then instantly you were like, absolutely not.
Weirdly, I don't want to sound too like I don't want to get people, what's the word? I don't want to get people annoyed with us who listen. But Bex, did that remind you of ever any kind of immigration you've ever been through?
I mean, the only time I've done that is when I've been to America.
And they were just quite aggressive. It's really scary.
The thing is, we've only ever gone on holiday and they ask what the purpose of your visit is. And I could never actually smuggle anything through customs because you just feel...
Well, you'd want to,
I mean, no.
It's being recorded.
But yeah, I mean... Whenever a custom officer asks you what the purpose of your visit is, you just suddenly panic and think, oh my God, I'm just here on holiday.
Yeah.
Now, what do you guys think of customs officers for other countries that you've been in? Have you traveled anywhere else where you've gone to customs?
And never had any. I just feel like there's usually a man shouting, being like, go as quick as you can. Who do you think you are, even breathing? It is quite terrifying.
Yeah. I'll just say because this is funny. You guys have said stuff like this, and other of our British girlfriends have said things like this to me before about like, oh yeah, I went through American customs and they were so harsh and they were so rude, and I was like, yeah, well, I've been through British customs many times. How do you think they are with me when I come through, and the other Americans that are coming through? So
what are they like? Are they as like? I just feel like, no, honestly, I feel like ours are just a bit lazier and don't move, whereas you've got people roaming being like, get your passports out right now. Whereas ours are just sat there making you wait because they're talking to someone about a cup of tea. Like, do you know what I mean?
I mean, I will say, like, I don't know that you guys are as shouty in terms of like the one who's like monitoring the queue and stuff like that, like the line that people are going through. But yeah, I mean, customs officers are really serious. I mean, you guys kind of do your style of intimidation in like the British way, right? So you're like, it's kind of that more
interested.
Well, it's like it's like the cold as ice. Like I'm like, I'll throw you in a gulag and then like, say cheerio chappy on my way out as the door slams in your face. You know what I mean? So like the British, customs officers like are just as serious and scary, but it's that British style. You know what I mean? Whereas Americans are just more full of like bluster and like, that kind of high energy vibe. But yeah, you guys are just as intimidating. Definitely.
I don't know if that makes me feel better or worse, if I'm honest.
Oh, okay. Well, just to say, like, I mean, I first went over to the UK when I did my study abroad year, and so there was like paperwork and documentation, everything I had to have then. So there was like that was a long interview because they had to talk to me about all that. But then I would say, so I had that passport for the next 10 years, and then there were like all these stamps in the passport because of all those travels and everything else. And so then I was going back for weddings and things like that. And so because they saw a lot of that, they were like, "Why are you here? What was your business? When did you come? Why did blah blah blah?" So I mean, it's eased off once I got a new passport, like, and they there was just I've just been traveling kind of more for vacations and holidays and stuff. But anyways,
well, this was just for holidays. I've never lived in America.
Actually, I went to America once, and my mum had basically like thrust upon me as I was leaving like a whole box full of cereal bars just so that I had like emergency food with me. So it was in like my hand luggage, and then sometimes when you're on the plane they make you fill out that whole A4 is it like a whole page of like. Yeah. And I think it said something about smuggling in food goods. And then I was only young, so I panicked and ate them all.
I always love the one that's a question about like, do you have like $10,000 or more like in cash, bonds?
Yeah, but you always question yourself. You're thinking, oh God, how much do I have? And then you're like, oh, hang on, no, I do not.
Well, and then I always am like, oh, I wish that was a problem I was having right now. You know what I mean? I would love to have 10,000 of any monetary. But I've literally never in my life. So no, that's funny. Anyways,
it occurred to me when you were reading through the list of who's actually gone over to South Africa, Delia and Patsy are left with Sister Monica Joan. They must be living their best life right now.
She's not gone to Wales. Those two have got the run of the house, I've written.
Yeah. They're going to be absolutely living their best life. Yeah, they're just going to feed Sister Monica Joan 8,000 Cadbury cakes and then go do whatever they want.
Oh, she probably wouldn't care if they were doing anything anyway.
She just wants to watch TV and eat, like, Entenmann's, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay, Beck, should we get back to talking about the episode? Where do you want to take us?
So should we touch briefly on it's Dr. Fitzsimmons, but everybody calls her Dr. Myra. She's very resistant to help when everybody arrives, which I can understand because you don't like people just coming in and all of a sudden they've got a better way of doing things, whereas she's know what you're doing the work.
And to be fair, if you remember, I thought about this scene. So when Nurse Crane was talking about the fact she's got a Rolodex, and she was like, I'm not into diarising disease. But if you remember, Nurse Crane was very much into trying to change everyone when she got there. So she's kind of got a bit of her own taste of her own medicine there. She was, she was the one trying to whip things up this time. And she was just like, no,
yeah.
And also the fact that she used local anaesthetic for Caesarean. Which is obviously, well, no, to be fair, this is something that happens now. They do it now. People are awake while they have cesareans now.
No, I get it. Yeah, no, I mean, I'm not saying it's a bad practice. Just, I don't know.
Needs must.
Yeah.
Well, also the fact that all this a lot of people are malnourished as children, so they have narrow pelvises, so it means that they have a big need for it as well.
Oh golly gosh. Yeah. I think my breath there was just about kind of the overall conditions that she kind of highlights when they first show up, because they're really getting the lay of the land in that scene. And she's like, look, like, this is the way it is, that's the way it is. This is the way it is, that's the way it is. And she just talks a lot about, malnutrition, like, babies are the only thing that a lot of these women have because it's their only
status.
It's their only real source of value in their society, both like in their society currently in South Africa with, like I said, all that apartheid, but then also just culturally in their society, within their, kind of native group and everything, just.
And also she's just like, do your vaccinations and F off. Leave the rest to me.
Yeah. And she's like, look, we do our best, and I really don't want to hear about it because, like, you know, you're here for a few weeks and I'm here for life. So, like, ultimately, whatever you say or think doesn't really matter because I'm the one who deals with the consequences of it.
It's
So,
something
like,
ridiculous, like 27 years she's been there, hasn't she?
oh God, yes, like absolute.
So to be fair, she has a right. It's not like she's not done a good innings there. She's got a right to tell them how it is.
And she's really dedicated to that population. She's so, like, she loves them, you know.
But she's also suffering from her own health issues, which she's self-diagnosed. She self-diagnosed herself with liver cancer.
Can I just say, though, who else noticed straight away? Sister Julienne. Now, Sister Julienne also noticed Sister Evangelina. I think there's a call in here for Sister Julienne. She's noticing all these illnesses left, right, and centre.
Oh, she's like one of those service dogs that smells it out.
I literally put, she sniffs it out like a dog.
Oh God, she really knows. I'm telling you, she is. So I want to talk about this more later, but she is the soul of empathy. Like, and yeah, she just knows when anyone is in pain, literally all the time.
Emotional intelligence. Also, just really quick on the Sister Julienne thing, you know, we're talking about when they were still having Christmas at Nana's house.
Yeah,
I liked it because they had 2 weeks to get prepared, didn't they, to go? And I did like that when Sister Julienne spoke to Barbara about boundaries with Tom.
Yes.
When she was like, listen, you guys are not allowed to get hot and heavy in South Africa. I don't care what you think you're gonna do.
You could literally see Barbara curling up inside herself to cringe.
But also, they're hardly crossing a line, are they?
No. Well, you say that, brill cream.
Actually, maybe Sister Julienne has figured out the brill cream stain.
Well,
yeah.
She probably always did. She's so good. She's not just empathetic. What is wrong with me? Why can I not think of words?
Empathic.
Well, yes, empathic. That's the word I'm thinking of. She's so intelligent that way, but she's also emotionally intelligent, and I think she can see mannerisms and things as well. She's just the best person in the world, isn't she? Let's be honest.
Oh my God, I love her.
She truly is.
Can I just say though, like, so the Barbara and Tom thing is hilarious because, like, she says that now. Okay, we've already discussed, like, I'm not a summer gal. Okay, like, it's currently
none
summer.
of us are.
No, none of us are.
Yeah, to be fair, this is none.
We're all, like, not here for that. But as our listeners will know, I live in a hot climate in the southern states of America, and this week it has been like either like high 90s or 100 degrees all week. And so spiritually, I felt this was exactly the perfect episode for us to be watching because they're all sweating and sunburned. I've been sweaty. I've been avoiding sunburn, as you all know. It's my thing I carry a banner about every time I go anywhere. But I haven't gotten a sunburn, but the idea, it just made me laugh when she was like, oh, Barbara and Tom, like, you guys have to stay away from each other. You could kind of think like, okay, yeah, we're outside of our regular work zones. You know, sleeping arrangements are a little bit more free flowing. Like, maybe we could kind of get up to something. But there is nothing that I could think about wanting to do less than touch anyone in a romantic way or any kind of a way when I am that hot 24/7. Like, if I have reached a point of internal and external body temperature that is above my norm and I am, like, actively seeing beads of sweat on my arms, I don't even want to touch my own body. I will literally starfish myself if I am on the sofa, if I am on the floor, if I am walking around. I look like a weird robot. I can't even imagine wanting to touch your partner, or, like, I don't even want to give, like, my mom or, like, my beloved friends, like, hugs, nothing. I'm like, I don't even want my own body to touch my own body, much less do I want to touch anyone else's body. So, like, to me, Sister Julienne just did not have to say anything because it's like, I wouldn't touch it anyway.
Honestly, you're taking me back. Now, this is on topic with this. It's not really called, it is baby related, so it's called the midwife. My daughter was born when it was so hot, and I was breastfeeding, and like,
oh God,
little baby next to you. Oh, this sweat in between.
And babies are so hot. Babies are so hot.
Disgusting. And she was, when you see, like, this is disgusting, but I'm going to say it. It was so sweaty, and, like, she used to just be like, just because she was so hot as well, she'd be just in a nappy. So she wouldn't have any top or anything on. And, when you see, like, I used to, we talked about Big Business before, and I love Big Business, but they used to have the pig chasing competitions, like,
in the
mud. That's what I used to think it felt like, because they were just so slippy, and it was horrible. And I'd be like, I'm going to drop her.
Was she just, like, sliding down you and, like, off of it? It's like, how would she stay on? Because it just, like, you just start to, like, slip.
Oh, it was rank. Don't miss that. I'm glad she's 6. Anyway, let's carry on.
Should we talk about some of the mothers in this episode? Because that's what we're here to talk about, midwifery.
Yeah, no more laughing now, because this is all going to get very serious. So
Nurse Crane and Nurse Buckle kick things off for us.
Oh,
okay,
yeah.
this one is happy. This one ends in a good way. This one is good.
So the dad comes running to the clinic just as another baby's having a febrile seizure, which is awful.
Ugh.
And so Barbara looks after that baby. Dr. Myra looks after that baby and sends Nurse Crane off with Fred in a car to where the man's just run 2 miles and left his pregnant birthing wife under a tree.
Under a tree.
Yeah.
No, let's just say under a tree, yes, definitely. But this woman is literally hanging on with both arms to this tree branch while she's like crouched, or like a slight crouching position, because she's the contractions are coming and the baby is kind of, I don't know, the baby doesn't get born until Phyllis gets there, but like she's not sitting under a tree kind of like just like holding her tummy, just being like she's like literally like hanging onto a tree, trying desperately to like make it through each contraction while she waits for her husband to come back. Like, and by the way, the tree is the only thing out there. Like, it is all literally just like open wide. I don't know what the correct geological term is.
There's an animal apparently, because Fred's like, oh, there's an animal over there. I don't know what it is. Nurse Crane's like, I don't want to know if there's nothing I can do about it. Like, if there's nothing to, what can we do? Don't tell me.
Well, she's like, yeah, are you going to protect me? Are you going to be able to solve this problem? And he's like, no, I'm really not. And she's like, okay, well, then I don't want to hear any more about it. Because, and he's like, oh, okay, I guess, whatever.
I love that in that hot climate, though. So Nurse Crane asks Fred for his shirt because they need something to put the baby into. Can I just say, you would not want my shirt because it would not be fresh and hygienic.
Yeah, but
for
also,
that baby.
how is he wearing a vest under that shirt?
Yes! That's what I was going to say, he had a vest on.
And Dr. Turner was wearing a full shirt, tie, vest, like actual 3-piece suit and a doctor's coat over the top. What is going on there?
It just begged belief. But also, I mean, I've strayed off subject, but just as the episode goes on, like everybody's tan lines.
Oh, I know.
That was so well done, to be fair.
It was just amazing.
Yeah, it really was.
And part of me was like, oh my God, like, did they literally put makeup to like get these sunburns? But I'm like, no, I think they probably actually really just got some sunburns because like.
No, I think they will have done that makeup to get that, because obviously SPF and everything, they won't have got that sunburn.
Yeah.
Anyway, off subject, Fred, they had the baby. I just want to talk really quick about how emotional Fred was. He was properly blown away by it.
And
it was really, really cute. I just wanted to mention that because I didn't want
the poor dad though, just sent off to sit in the van, the truck.
Well, yeah, but that's what happened in those days, isn't it?
Well, I guess, but
also Fred's joke about zebra crossing, lols.
Oh, it was really sweet though. Oh, and then the part about how the mother asked to keep the afterbirth of placenta because they want to use it in some way when she gets back home, you know, after the baby's born and everything. And then Fred makes some comment about that, and then Phyllis is like, "Oh, but people in Poplar do that too." And she's like, they use it to like as like for gardening and stuff like that, among other things. So the tradition
was a bit much, though, wasn't it? Having the afterbirth just in a kidney dish in that hot weather.
Oh, girls!
I mean, I know there was no alternative. I wanted to ask you about
this. Would you use afterbirth on your garden?
Me?
Yeah,
I didn't hear the start of that. No, I couldn't. I would faint.
Yeah, but if someone said they'd put the afterbirth on your garden for you, would you do it? Because it's a really good fertilizer, apparently.
I'm not convinced. Like, how quick? No, I'm not convinced by it.
Oh, I thought you would. I would have put money on you doing it.
If someone, no one asked me, but I'm just going to tell you my opinion. If someone would deal with it and do it for me, then I would go for it. Because think about how, like, what it's made up of, right? You know?
Well, do you know what worries me?
I just don't want. I'm with you, Jen. I just don't want to have to deal with it. Also, how quickly does that rot down?
I don't know, but I'm worried about foxes coming in my garden and rats.
It would go away fast. It would go away fast because it's basically just like soft tissue. So I mean, it would disintegrate relatively. I mean, not in like a day, but I mean, it would go quickly.
Oh, I don't know. I've tried making compost and it wasn't easy.
I know, but see, the thing is, compost is totally different. Like this would well, okay, I don't know. I have no idea how you would use it in a garden, but all I'm assuming is that you would do something to the afterbirth to like prep it, and then you would like
Chop it up, maybe.
like break it up into like smaller, parts or whatever, and then you kind of bury that throughout or whatever, and then you would just let it like go back to the earth. I mean, ultimately everything goes back to the earth. So I mean,
I'm just squeamish. So I don't know if I could deal with it.
Oh, I wouldn't want to touch it, look at it, smell it, anything like that. As long if someone just said, "Oh, I'll just put it in there, and then when I'm done, I'll come in, wash my hands, we have a cup of tea," I'd be like, "Okay, that's fine." But like, I'm not even really sure why I'm worried about this, because I don't think it's ever going to happen in my real life. My
husband's not at all squeamish. He's the exact opposite of me. He's watches all horror films. He's all into it. He was into the birth. He was all excited. The afterbirth was the only thing that's ever made him feel ill. It's just like it was like some alien thing. I was just like, thanks.
Well, girls, I'll just disclose something, okay? Before I ever started watching the show, before ever really like doing, any of this kind of stuff like that, I thought that when I pictured what a placenta was, I pictured something that looked vaguely like a kidney or a liver, kind of like a blobbish type of a shape or whatever, and that it was just kind of tucked away in whatever area of the there was for it to find and latch onto. Now that I've seen the show and know what it looks like, somehow it's really, I don't want to use the word disturbed, but like it is really like it's just, there's something very freaky about it, and I don't know, and like I don't know, it's like it's just it's weird. It's weird. Like it really is one of those times where you're just reminded, like, oh my God, my human body is so freaking bizarre, and you're just like, what am I even, you know what I mean? You're like, what do I even live inside of? Like, how is, like, how am I exist? Like,
but some people actually eat it.
Actually, a lot of people do eat it. A lot of people like have a tradition in their culture of that. Yeah, I know. It's true.
There's a thing you can pay for now, which is putting it into a pill form.
Yeah, and I would have it in the pill form, but I want to know if any of our listeners have ever eaten their own placenta.
Oh, yeah, send it in. Let us know.
Oh, yeah, that is really cool. I would love to know. Yeah.
Yeah.
I bet you somebody has. Somebody's got to. A lot of cultures do.
It's apparently quite good for your health benefits and everything. There's a reason people do it.
But
I'm fine in capsule form. If they did do it, I want to know what form they had it in. Did anyone just fry it up like a piece of kidney?
Yeah. I mean, again, think about what it is, right? I mean, it's basically filled with nutrients, growth, hormones, like it's filled with a lot of stuff that like makes a baby healthy, happy, good, growing, all that type of stuff. That's what the organ does in the function that it occupies in that, so it makes sense why people would want to, it makes sense. Not for me. I'm not really going to get there, but if that's your thing, I love it for you.
Anyway, how did we even get here? Right, speaking of babies, but not babies, should we talk about Rosa?
Oh, Rosa. Now, Rosa used to work as a secretary.
Oh, I loved Rosa as well. She was just so bright and happy and lovely.
She'd been married for 10 years, and she'd basically been longing for a baby for 10 years.
So I pronounced this wrong when I was doing the intro because I was kind of talking a little bit fast, but the layman's term is a false pregnancy, but what they call it is a pseudocyesis, which is obviously, as I said, a false pregnancy. But she basically wished herself into thinking that she was pregnant, and then even to the point where she was having labor pains.
Well, also under stomach.
Yeah, she was growing. Everything was growing. Yeah, and it was basically I don't know if this term is still used. I mean, well, I'm not even gonna say it because it's not a very nice one anyway. But just like a psychological condition, like she willed her body into mimicking, the pregnancy symptoms, and it was just it was just heartbreaking.
It was heartbreaking when Trixie. Well, we first met Rosa when she came to the clinic. She had a bad cut on her hand.
Yeah.
Then she leaves the clinic to go back to her family because she wants to give birth at home and do it the old-fashioned way.
Yeah.
The traditional way. But then when she's been in labour for 3 days and it's not progressed, Trixie and Barbara go out to see her, and Trixie examines her and then realises that she's not in labour and that it is a phantom pregnancy. But when she says, they have to break it to her, and she just says that she's a fool and she's nothing, I was like,
but also, how amazing was Barbara? Because Trixie was so upset by it, she just couldn't. And Barbara was I just think Barbara's just grown so much. She's really emotionally intelligent, and she's really good with communication. I think she's really big with empathy as well. And she went in and she was like, I'm so sorry, it's not, and she's like, it's not fair and you will. But she just felt like such a failure, didn't she? When she was like empty, she's like, I'm empty, there's nothing to me. she was like, there is, you will find your purpose. And it was a really, really moving scene. Again, Call the Midwife always is moving and amazing. This is why we love it so much. But that was a gorgeous scene. And Rose is just so bright and sunny when you first meet her. And for her to be that dejected and down, it was so sad.
And Barbara says to her, you will find a reason to go on. And we're jumping ahead a little bit, but she does, because she becomes the clinic administrator when they all leave to go back to Poplar.
And she looks so smart, and I cheered.
Came in with a typewriter. I loved it.
I know, same.
We also meet Constance.
Yeah.
Now, should we double back a bit before we talk about Constance? Because I just want to talk about the scene where I mentioned that Rosa had gone to the clinic because she'd cut her hand. Why was Constance at the clinic already? Or was she just...
I got the feeling she was there just for prenatal care, because
she'd already had she'd lost 2 babies before, hadn't she?
Yeah. She said one in her tummy and one in her arms, which
but
absolutely...
there was a lovely but also very heartbreaking scene around the campfire.
Oh, yeah.
So Constance and Rosa are both sat, and it's Nurse Crane.
Well, they got invited as well.
Well, wait, sorry, Bex, I'm just gonna railroad over you for 1 second. So Trixie, Barbara, and Phyllis are all sat around the campfire. Trixie's smoking, Barbara's complaining about bug bites, and Trixie is saying, if you smoke, then that'll repel the bugs. Nurse Crane is like, neither one of you should be smoking, like, chill. And then Sister Winifred comes up and she's like, do either of you have something to help me with my sunburn? She's like, under here, I'm a redhead. And then Phyllis is like, yeah, I actually kind of guessed based on your eyebrows. So they're like chatting. And then Rosa and Constance like have come out of the hospital, and they're kind of like standing like, away from the girls, but looking at them. And then Barbara's like, oh, hi. Or Barbara and Trixie see them because Phyllis and Winifred's back are turned, and they see them and they're like, oh, hi, and they kind of like wave them over, and the girls like, and Rosa and Constance are like, ooh, shouldn't we? But then they're like, come on, and so they go over and sit, and then they start this conversation, and then we'll tell what happens when they're sitting there. But just to say, they were hesitant about coming, but then they join the convo, and then anyway, we'll go from there.
But I just loved the camaraderie between everybody.
Yeah.
It was a really lovely atmosphere.
It was.
Well, yeah. Sorry, you can say.
No, you go. Go.
Just to say, obviously Rosa and Constance have experienced this from other people. So, because Dr. Myra is white and everything, so, but you can tell that Rosa and Constance are a little bit hesitant, but, they do have this beautiful camaraderie scene with Trixie and Barbara and Winifred and Phyllis and everything. And they're talking about, they're like, Rosa and Constance are sharing things about like their life experiences. And they're like, Constance discloses that, like she had these 2 pregnancy losses, and their husbands are away at work, like literally away, like out of the house, out of town for work, like 10 months of the year, and they're so responsible for so many things, but then they also have this great community around them of like other women who help them out. And so it's this really beautiful scene. And then Trixie puts on her record player, and they start dancing, and everyone's kind of getting into it and like having a good laugh and stuff. And then these 2 officers, the same ones that stopped the bus when they were on the way to the clinic at the beginning, come over, and they start shouting at the girls, and they're like, what are you talking about? Like, we're just having fun, no one's hurting anybody. And they're like, you're not allowed to congregate with each other, and like even if they don't know the rules, you 2 do. And he points to Rosa and Constance, and then they just are like, oh, okay, sorry.
Yeah, but
and
Trixie was really good. Trixie was like, officer, we will get our patients back to their ward, and we will accompany them. She was really strong and amazing.
Yes, exactly. And just that made me so mad. That whole scene made me so mad. Not the scene, what happened with the officers. I loved what was happening with the women, but
because I thought it was a lovely scene, but then it showed the reality of
the separation, the segregation, the absolute systematic racism and bigotry that everyone was living under, and was oppressing everyone. Especially oppressing those women, but also oppressing, the white people in that interaction that were trying to connect with their patients, that cared for them.
I thought they'd used Winifred as not normally hanging around and dancing with them in that situation as well, because of that, to kind of highlight it, because obviously she doesn't normally hang around with them dancing and stuff. They usually do that in their room getting ready together. So this is something that was quite unusual, but I just thought that was to show that everyone was kind of there enjoying it. It was a very communal feeling. And then that happened even more. I just thought it was just to show the stark contrast a bit more.
Yeah.
Also, did you hear what song they were dancing to, Bex?
I did at the time.
Somewhere beyond the sea.
What's that?
Yeah.
No, that did not register with me at
all.
Well,
listeners, that's one of Becky's favourite songs ever, and she didn't even notice it. So,
Can you have a favorite song if you don't remember your favorite song, though?
Apparently you can.
I didn't. I'm going to watch that scene back again.
You can, and you'll realise that we were right. They also
Just so
had the locomotion, Little Ivy's locomotion.
Yes, they did.
Whatever you are doing, the strange new dance now. Boo, boo,
Come
boo,
on,
boo,
baby,
do
do
the
the
locomotion.
And that other one, oh, what's it called? The Hiya Baba. That one.
I'm not quite
The
getting
really
it
famous
with you.
song, Hayama or Hiyama. And it's Pata Pata song. It's ace.
I do know the one that you mean.
Yes,
when
thank
they're
you.
Yeah.
That might have been like a
everyone.
British
Jen's
hit.
looking at me like I've got 6 heads.
No, you'll know it.
No,
You'll know it, Jen, once you hear it.
Okay, maybe I need to go back and watch that song, watch that scene again for that song. Yeah.
Well, Bex can send it you while she looks at the other song.
But Constance goes into labour. She's not progressing. She needs a cesarean. Dr. Turner and Sheila are away because they've taken Dr. Myra to the local town because she needs to get medication for a liver problem.
Mm-hmm.
Now, have we spoken about the fact that it was a hepatic abscess that needed to be drained?
No, we haven't talked about it.
No, we didn't go into that level of detail. When he was actually draining it.
I know.
Oh,
no pain relief.
Oh, well, and just to say, Dr. Myra, okay, she takes no beef from anyone. And if you ever doubted her or thought she was any kind of type of way, the second that she was like, do the like procedure on me to help my liver abscess, but don't give me any pain medication because that's for my patients. I mean, her title as a complete badass was cemented because 100%. She was already in so much pain anyway. And then to go through what she went through, I mean, she was obviously acting, but oh my gosh, I was just like,
hang on, what? This isn't real. There was a gorgeous singing scene with Constance and Barbara as well, wasn't there, when she was giving birth?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Trixie had to step up and do the cesarean.
Sister Julienne basically says she needs a cesarean. Trixie says, now, did you see a lot of yourself in Trixie with this? Because you and I have both done this, Alex. When something needs to be done and you're like, I could do that. You once said you could make me a pair of shoes that I'd seen.
That's my toxic trait.
Oh god.
I could have made them shoes. They were ridiculous, Bex.
You guys, I just saw a TikTok not long ago. I told my mom about this, where it was a girl who was like, oh, she's like, I think every man have this toxic trait where they think that if they had to land a commercial airliner, that they could do it.
I've seen this.
Have you seen it? And so then like the next slides, like you go through and it's this person like texting like all the men in their lives. And it's like, do you think you could land a commercial airliner if you had to? And the guys, and like some of the guys are just first off like, yes, like no questions asked. Yes, I definitely could. Some of the men are like, well, wait, do I have access to like the air traffic control so that they can like help me? And it's like, yeah, sure. And then it's like, yeah, I definitely think I could. And then like the other ones are like, well, yeah, it just like goes through and it's just like, wow, like you really think you can do that? Like, no. And I just thought it was hilarious because I have one of my cousins was a Marine fighter pilot, and then he's now transitioned to commercial flying. And then another cousin of mine basically did the same thing. So we have some pilots in our family, and just all I could think about was just like how many times he's like talked to us about all the different things. And he was a flight instructor when he was in the Marines, and then he like has like 50 million hours and everything. And I just, the idea that you could literally just be a regular person and then someone comes to you and is like, sir, you have to land the plane, and then they just go to the cockpit and just go.
But Trixie steps up. She's right there with them.
Well, Trixie at least knows what she's doing, though.
Yeah, she's seen a lot.
She makes a really good case for why she can do it. She's like, I've observed this. She's like, I've done stitches. I've talked to Dr. Myra about it. She's like, they all have so much medical training and experience.
Yeah, but also, she was just so up for it, like me with those shoes I was making. She was just like, I can do this. And then when the actual operation went ahead,
yeah,
Sister Julienne and Nurse Crane were not up for it, whereas Nurse Gilbert and Trixie were up for it.
Yeah,
and Barbara and Trixie were just amazing, but they had a bit of an issue during the actual operation, and Trixie had to get Barbara to push the baby up the birth canal, and Oh, they did so well. But then the scene afterwards when they just finished, birth went really well. Constance got her baby. It was amazing. It was a really gorgeous scene. And then afterwards, Trixie looked like she was hands shaking. She had to go outside.
Burst into tears.
Yeah, but then Barbara went and joined her, and the fact that they were just crying together outside, elated but also relieved. It was just a lovely, lovely scene again.
It was, and Barbara says to Trixie, I couldn't be more proud of it. Like, you absolutely, I know they're acting, so well done, but yeah, absolutely. It was greatly acted. That's not good grammar.
The acting was great, not the actives. The acting was great.
Do you know what I wanted to see though? I wanted to see Dr. Turner's reaction when he got back with them saying, guess what we did while you were gone? It didn't happen.
No, it didn't.
Just would have been like, okay, great, like, love it. Anyways, moving on. The thing is, and this is a more serious point. I just want to make this. So Rosa and Constance were kind of often portrayed in tandem with each other. You know, their scenes were very intertwined, and their stories were very, interlocked and everything. And for me, when I was watching the episode, so both girls are taking care of both mothers, but Trixie goes in to give the examination to Rosa when she's in labor and comes out and says to Barbara, like, I've done the whole examination. There's no baby in there. It's, this is a situation. And she's like, I don't know how to tell her, I'm completely, at a loss here. And Barbara says, I'll tell her. Like, and just jumps right in. And I had this thought of like, well, Barbara, that isn't this was my gut reaction. I was like, Barbara, that isn't your responsibility. Like, Trixie needs to be the one to do it. She's given the examination. She's the one who's been, taking the lead on the labor. And so I kind of felt like Barbara, like, took the bullet. You know what I mean? Like, Trixie kind of got off.
She was up for taking it.
Let me just finish. So Barbara goes in there. She carries that emotional load. It's a huge, really, really tough scene for her. And, Rosa's so upset, understandable and everything. She does an amazing job. She's so great. Then Constance comes in and Trixie performs the surgery, and Barbara's the one who kind of is the, like, second, to her. Like, she helps, right? But Trixie's the one who really takes on the responsibility.
Yeah.
Really takes on the challenge. And then they both go out and have that scene where they're crying and everything. And I thought, okay, this is where, like, to me, that was not redemption, because Trixie didn't need redemption, but I thought this is the balancing act that these women are doing all the time, where you have these really, really, really tough situations, and sometimes you do need your colleague to go in and kind of take one for you, and then you go back and return the favor, because that's just how it works. There's just always going to be a lot. It's always really heavy. And so I like that in those two storylines between the mothers, both Trixie and Barbara were kind of balanced in what they took on in their roles. Teamwork, yes. Teamwork. So that's what I wanted to highlight. I just really appreciated both of them, rising to the occasion when they could, and then also, supporting the other one when they weren't able to maybe do the extra tough thing.
Yeah, was.
That's all.
Now, we've not spoken about Mr. Stark yet, but Mr. Stark is a local landowner. He basically owns the land
next to them,
and there's a fresh spring, so a fresh source of water, which could be piped across his land to the clinic. But Jenn touched upon it in kind of the introduction to the episode, that his wife died. I thought they said purple fever.
I heard purposuni.
I don't know what it was.
There was a name of something that the wife was afflicted with, which then caused her to lose her life and the baby not long after.
So she went into labour early. She gave birth to a 4-pound baby girl.
Yeah.
She died the following day. The baby died a week later. So he's never gotten over the loss of his wife.
Right.
And
right, I'm going to say something here that really annoyed me. So Dr. Myra, they were talking about the fact they needed this water and they couldn't do it, and it was only days away from getting new water, and it was just different ways for them to do it. And it was a headache for Tom because he had to go through it, and Fred was there with him because Fred's been in LLMA and doing drains and stuff. Now, during the first bit, Myra was talking about him, this Dr. Stark, quite matter-of-factly, Mr. Stark, sorry, quite matter-of-factly, basically just saying, yeah, he won't let us have his land. But then when she was ill with Sister Julienne, now she told them, like, she didn't tell them all the facts at the start. She was like, oh yeah, he's annoyed because he had a wife here that died. And it was just really quite late to the day to tell them all that information. I was a bit like, you could have told them that right near the start. So Tom wasn't knocking on the door being like, let me get on your land, you bugger. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Al, that's dramatic pacing.
It annoyed me.
If you just go drop it all at the beginning, then there's no tension that's building. Like, you have to have all those factors working at once,
Well, it annoyed me. And then
but also Tom then is like, right, I'm going to get this sorted. Now, everybody's expectation is he's going to get this sorted in a day or so.
Same.
Yeah, oh, I know, yeah.
But in actual fact, the reality of the situation is that it's going to take months.
And I'm like, Tom, that's the piece of information that I was irritated because Sister Julienne is like, okay, Tom, I need this water ASAP. Like, when the heck is this thing gonna be done? And he was like, oh, at least like 2.5 months from now, at least. And she's like, are you fucking kidding me? She's like, I have got nothing in the next 12 hours. And he's like, oh, well, that is a problem. Yeah, I will. I mean, so that to me was more of an egregious, like, don't tell anybody like the timeline of this. I mean, the reason I'm gonna kind of push back a little bit on your point, Al, is like, yeah, it is annoying that Dr. Myra didn't say that at the beginning, but she was so reticent to share or like get connected with the visiting team from Nonatus at the beginning. Like, she didn't want to tell them anything, and like they were having a meeting.
That would have been useful. And the other thing that annoyed me was Sister Julienne. So Tom goes round, he's having none of it. Sister Julienne goes round, and she's like, "I will pray for you." And I know about you, so you know how she is. She's amazing. And she was all like, I've heard about your family and all this stuff. And then she kind of plants the seed in him that there's other children that exist there and that could die because he won't give them their water supply. Yeah. And what annoyed me was, as if he's not thought about that in however many years it's been, that do you know what I mean? That annoyed me too. I was just a bit like, oh.
Yeah, but he's clearly not thought about that because it's only now that he actually goes to the clinic. She kind of says this could be a memorial to your wife.
Wow. Also, let's just be real. We all love Dr. Myra, but like we know what her style is like. And like the reason why she told Sister Julienne the story, I think, when she did, was because she was feeling extremely vulnerable in that moment. And also she saw how much other people were doing to help her when she's always been only ever the one to help anybody else. And I could see how Dr. Myra, like in the follow-up, like after, you know, Mr. Stark's wife passed away, that she might have gone and talked to him and everything like that. But I could also see them like completely start fighting with each other, and then she called him like, you know, like a cold-hearted old crone or whatever, and then just stormed out of the room and been like, fine, you know, screw you then, or something. Like, Dr. Myra does not seem diplomatic in any type of way, and like,
yeah, that's true. That is
I
true.
wouldn't be surprised if, in addition to Mr. Stark's like hard-heartedness, that she also then like perhaps exacerbated the situation to the point where there was just a complete impasse between the two of them.
That is actually a very good point that's made me turn around. Also, I liked how Sister Julienne was really, when he actually did come to the clinic and he was like, do you not bathe babies? And she was like, we don't have enough water. Now, excuse me. She was dead cold with him.
Yeah, she's like, I don't have time to attend to you right now.
Also, right, one more thing I'm going to say, and I know I'm hormonal again, but do you know what really annoyed me is, you know, when they actually did, so spoiler alert, they got the spring, he gave permission, they went across his land, they got the spring done, everything was great, and then they got a little boy that we'll talk about in a minute to turn it on, right?
Yeah.
The spring was not efficient. There was water going everywhere. That really annoyed me. What a waste. It's like they were all showering in it and shouting in glee. I'm like, turn it off. I'm fun with
no, that it's because the tank was already full.
Well,
that's why it overflowed. But yes, it was a waste of water. But but also maybe just edit that bit out.
I don't know that I had the same reaction, but in solidarity with you, Al, I will agree with you and say yes, it was annoying.
Yeah. Although I tell you what got me is when, I don't know if it's when Tom first went to the Stark farmhouse, or when Sister Julienne, like at the clinic, they're desperate for water, and they've got somebody out watering the lawn.
I know, and it's like green grass. Yes, yeah, it's like so verdant and lush, and like everywhere else in the episode is like this very beige, brown, tan, caramel colors of like dry soil and like, you know, tree husks and all this kind of thing like that. And then they show Mr. Stark's like home and property, and it's all, you know, like lovely, gorgeous trees and flowers and everything, and you're like, oh, there we go. That's the difference right there.
Yeah.
One thing I did notice, and I don't know if you guys picked up on it, did you notice when Tom was digging the pipeline, his sweaty chest hair?
No, I did not.
Don't know why I was drawn to it then.
Tom got so tanned, as did Trixie. You know, they were the only two people in the group that got tanned.
Well, we know what else happened on that trip as well.
I know.
I'm not surprised that those two hooked up, because on that beach scene when Trixie was wearing that bikini,
she looked ridiculously good.
Amazing.
Yeah, very, very glamour, beach glamour. And poor Barbara in her like sad secondhand ruched crazy color bathing suit, where that was the most unflattering baby suit in the whole world.
This whole episode, Barbara, I just had so much, like, I saw myself in her because she was just sweaty the whole time.
Oh, if I was anyone on the trip, I would be Barbara. 1000%. I'd have all the bug bites. I'd have all the sunburn. I'd be sweating my butt off
also
every
travel
single
sick.
day.
I get travel sick.
Yeah,
I do
yeah.
as well.
And
Like,
then,
girl,
do you know what really
Go
annoyed
on.
me though? Nurse Crane was really like rude about it. She was like, "Come on, you need to get over it now. You need to grow a backbone." And then there was a spider on the floor, and she screamed, and Barbara got it with a shoe. And she's like, "Oh, there might be some venom on that, or some backbone." And I was like, "Yes, Barbara."
Well, also, Phyllis just told me that she stunk and she needed to go take a bath with like 8,000 bars of soap to clean it up because she smelled of human mustiness, which was really horrible.
but Phyllis did it in a nice way.
In a nice way.
She said you're not normally challenged. What did she say? You're not normally challenged in the personal
Hygiene department.
hygiene.
Yeah, but still, it's not nice to tell someone that they're like stinking and they make the whole room
No,
smell
but she
bad.
didn't tell her that she stank. She was just like, can anybody smell something that's a bit...
Speaking of something else that's a bit yucky and makes your stomach turn, the bit where Tom said to Barbara, "In my mind, I'm kissing you very gently."
Oh! We were talking, you mentioned how Barbara was taking care of the baby that had the seizure, and I didn't bring it up at that point, but that when he says I'm kissing you gently, I was like, oh, like don't. And I mean, God bless Barbara, she goes, "Oh, I'm kissing you back," and I just was like, that is the most weirdly, like, you know how people say nowadays like it gives you the ick, like that fully gave me the ick. I'd be like, "Oh no, Tom, it's been a good run, but we're done, babe. Like, I can't do it. If you're gonna talk to me like that, this is not gonna happen."
It reminded me like something out of like Dungeons and Dragons or something, when you roll the dice and it's like, "I'm getting you this weapon," like I'm kissing you gently. So there's this scene where they have a bit of a holiday, but they have a bit of a holiday on the beach together, and they have like a few hours off. And Barbara's getting annoyed because she's like, "We're taking a holiday from this, like it's an actual holiday, where this is their lives." And I just love. She's just a warrior again.
Oh, Barbara's amazing.
Yeah, and we were just talking about the fact that she was wearing this swimsuit and everything, and she was getting a bit annoyed about it, and she shouted. She was a bit curt-tongued with Tom about it, but she was fine. But then Trixie and Tom sit together, don't they?
Mm-hmm.
And she's talking about how, you know, strong Barbara is, and how Barbara's afraid of much less than you think. And he's like, "I don't think she's afraid of anything. Like, you know, he sees everything in her." And she's like, I've known for a long time, longer than you, I think, that this is to be the person you spend the rest of your life with." And obviously, like, I don't know if they're trying to imply that she's planting the seed in it, or that he should get together, or that she's kind of giving him permission to propose.
I think she's given him permission.
Yeah. But then she says, "No hand-me-down rings."
This annoyed me.
Same, because I'm just thinking, if anyone's suited to a second-hand ring or not even having one, it's Barbara. She wouldn't care less. So,
but also, I think it's lovely.
It's so different. Okay, you guys keep talking. Sorry, go ahead.
I think it's lovely to have a piece of jewelry that's been passed down.
Same.
I think
Unless
it
it's
is
horrible.
too. I think it is too. But are you saying you didn't think Trixie's point about Barbara specifically was well made?
Yeah, just more about the fact that, like, if anything, like, I'm not saying he should give her the ring that he gave her. But what I am saying is, like, Barbara out of anyone wouldn't care if it was new, old, or anything. And the fact that she's like, give her a new one, a new diamond or whatever. Don't give her, she deserves something. It's Barbara because she has second hand. She doesn't care.
But also, he
ahead.
can't afford a ring. Like, he's not in a position where he can just go out and buy a diamond ring.
Okay,
And
I
need to carry on.
Okay.
It's not as if he bought Trixie a new ring. She then gave him back, and then he's going to regift it to Barbara. Like, it's a family heirloom.
Okay.
So I just think it's out of order of Trixie. And also, yes, I can understand Barbara's there in a second-hand swimming costume, but I just don't think that when it comes to an engagement ring, it's not like just some hand-me-down. She's always had hand-me-down clothes. It's a completely different thing.
Well, I also didn't know if it was like a scene for Trixie being like, "I feel a bit annoyed that it was my ring a bit still." I didn't know.
No.
Okay, I'm gonna completely go the other direction here. All right, first of all, I don't think it was a comment on secondhand rings in general. I don't think it was a comment on heirlooms. I don't think it was a comment on any of that. Okay, and I don't even think it was a comment on what Barbara would be happy with or would accept. I think it was Trixie saying to Tom that, you know, I love Barbara. I see the amazing woman she is. I think you guys would make an amazing couple. Whether it's my permission or my blessing, or I'm planting a seed in you that I think, you know, maybe you've been slow to realize or whatever. I want to, you know, she's doing this, kind of saying to him, you know, like, look at how special she is. Look how wonderful she is. And to me, what the comment about the ring is not what that ring in particular is or whatever. It's that, yes, Barbara would and does accept a lot of these things with grace and sweetness, and she's perfectly happy with it. But I think what Trixie was trying to say there is that Barbara is a one of a kind. She is an original. She is special. She is like your queen. Like, she deserves the best. She deserves something that is truly her own, that is like for her, picked for her, what she wants, that doesn't have anything to do with what she would be happy with or what she would settle for because of whatever, because she's so sweet that she would go for it. You need to give her the primo number one thing, not necessarily the most expensive, not necessarily, you know, like, you know, whatever, but you need to pick something out with only Barbara in mind, because she's number one, and she deserves to be number one if you were going to choose her for your wife, and then give her the symbolic gesture of an engagement ring in that moment. And to me, that's what Trixie was lobbying for, is like, give Barbara what she truly deserves, which is this really special, beautiful symbol of your love. And like, that can only be from you to her, not like the ring you already had or whatever like that. It wasn't a comment on like secondhand, you know, all that other stuff. It was like, this is about Barbara specifically, is how I took it.
But that's not Tom's reality. And that, spoiler alert,
that's not what happened. But the thing is, like, he gives her a blade of grass, and like, that is Trixie's point. That's like her point made. That's her point fulfilled there, because Tom in that moment pulls the blade of grass. It's a completely fresh, it's completely brand new. It's a symbol of like what he wants to give to her. And he says, listen, you can have a diamond, you can have a gold band, you can have whatever you want when we get home. But he's like, this blade of grass right here, it was made for this moment. It was made only for the two of us. And so even though it was only a blade of grass, like literally free, it was symbolically the special, unique, truly only for her thing that he was giving her. And that's what was really mattered. Not how much it cost or whatever like that, but that it was only about her, for her in that moment, to celebrate like and symbolize like their love.
And that was lovely, but she could have got his grandmother's ring when she got home.
Well, if that's what she asked for, if that's what she wanted, sure, definitely. But if she wants a new diamond ring, then like, yeah, she should get it. Also, she should. And I don't really care about Tom's salary, honestly. Like,
I can't have this conversation now without jumping ahead to what ring Barbara actually ends up with.
Well, I actually can't remember what ring she ends up with. But...
She ends up buying her own.
She what?
She buys her own ring. Because he can't afford anything.
Well, to be fair, I will say though, the blade of grass was lovely. Let me love you, accept this blade of grass. Will you marry me? It was lovely. It was lovely.
Yeah, I mean, I think we've gone too far on this point.
Yeah, I wouldn't have been able to hug him at that point because I would have been too hot. I would have been like, okay, like I'll just put my fingertips on top of your shoulder and say thank you very much for proposing to me, because it was just too hot. But yes, I love the blade of grass.
Can we also talk about Abel and Matthias?
Oh, I loved Abel.
Yeah.
Two little boys. So how old do you think they were? Like 10 and 8 or something, or 12 and 8 or something?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
I was thinking more like 6 and 9 or something.
And they heard about the polio vaccination, and he walked 8 miles with his brother on his back because he got polio and can't walk now. And he walked there because he thought it could cure it. And he took money and he was like, don't worry about me, but get my brother. It was just absolutely heartbreaking. Yeah. And they were just so lovely. And Dr. Turner had to break the news to them. Look, he's had it. You know, you can have it again. You can have the polio vaccination, but obviously...
Also, it's when Dr. Turner breaks to him, he says, I'm going to break this to you man to man.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And anyway, so... cut a long story short, they obviously he was quite dejected, but it was, you know, that's he's had it. But then Sheila rang Renata's house and got Sister Monica Joan to send Timothy's old leg braces over to her with a Christmas cake.
Why was Sister Monica Joan all of a sudden trying to get rid of the cake? She just doesn't care for Christmas cake.
Yeah, she doesn't like Christmas cake. That's the only cake she doesn't like. Also, I really want to talk about the lovely moment at the start when they get in the clinic, and they're talking about how the fridge is paraffin and everything like this, and they're trying to work out how it all works, and they feel really overwhelmed. And they say, it's times like these, I think, what would Sister Evangelina do? Which I thought was a really nice tribute to her.
That was a really nice tribute. Yes.
Photos at the end just made me cry and cry and cry.
Oh.
Oh God, I know. When
well
Phyllis
done.
has her camera out and they take out all the different photos. They take the photos of everyone in various different things, and it's just
Oh, it was so good. But also, this was on Christmas Day. I was taken back to the fact that the people are watching this episode on Christmas Day.
Yeah. Oh, and just a
mess.
word to say at the end, Dr. Myra completely recovers from her illness and returns, and she's going to be on like bed rest or whatever, and Trixie's going to stay behind and like be
Yes.
like the acting manager of the clinic until Dr. Myra is fully recovered, and Dr. Myra can continue her work, and so the clinic is going to be okay because now they
And
have the
I
water,
wonder-
now they have the doctor, now they have the supplies. They're going to be okay.
And I wonder if this was because Trixie in real life was on Strictly Come Dancing.
Do you know what? I was
Oh.
wondering why she was taking a break.
Because she misses the next couple episodes of the next
Yeah.
season, right?
I think it's because she was on Strictly Come Dancing.
How far did she get on that show?
Quite far. Right, should we do heroes and zeros, ladies?
Yes, let's.
Bex?
My hero is going to be Trixie for doing the
Nice.
Caesarean, for doing exactly what we think we can do, but actually achieving it.
Yeah, love it.
My zero is going to be the sergeant.
That's a good one.
Yes,
He's a
just for his
definite.
general attitude
Wait a minute,
and for everything that he stands for.
Who was your hero again? Oh, Trixie for doing the Caesarean. Okay, right.
And he's my zero.
Who's next?
You, Al.
My hero is Sheila
Ooh.
for a few reasons. Number one, obviously getting the leg braces. She actually actioned it. The way she actually got Sister Dr. Myra to go to the hospital because she was speaking about bodies not being reliable witnesses and everything. She did a really gentle conversation with her about it. She actually got her to speak to Dr. Turner about it, because she was so resistant to any medical intervention at all. She wouldn't even get checked out by him. And also, my other one is when they were made to move the car and
Oh, I know.
Tom was saying that he's on missionary work and he needs to think charitable thoughts because he's on missionary work and he needs to think not uncharitable thoughts. And she was like, I'm happy to think them for you, said Sheila. And Dr. Turner was like, that's my girl. And one last reason is because of a nylon.
Oh, the bi-nylon nightgown that she comes out in. Yeah.
Do you know what, though? I was thinking when she put that on, like, that is not a breathable fabric.
Yeah, well, Dr.
No,
Turner
it's
was
not
loving
at
it.
all.
I don't think it was on long.
I was going to say, yeah, he was going to get that right off. So don't even have to worry about breathable or not, Bex. Gee whiz.
And my zero is also, it has to be the awful, well, the whole system, the whole apartheid system. There you go.
Yeah.
Don't need to explain that.
Okay, so my hero is Sister Julienne for the scene that she has. Well, she's amazing across this episode, but especially the scene that she has with Mr. Stark in his home. And just like little spoiler for our series recap, that quote will be in that series recap, so just so you guys have a head start on that one. Her ability to be empathetic is truly a model for us all in terms of just she just is on a complete another level, and I love her so much. And like her empathy and her compassion are just stupendous. Okay, my zero is also going to be apartheid. I think we all basically chose that. I'll just put into that big topic one extra kind of part of it, which is so insidious and so horrible, and just was brought out to me in the scene with all the girls from Nonatus and then Rosa and Constance, where the horrible officers came up and said, oh, you guys can't be together, this is congregating and everything, and they didn't know, but you guys should know better and everything. Any of it is terrible, but forcing people to separate that way, forcing people to not be able to talk, build relationships, communicate, build society with each other, breeds the kind of terrible thoughts and othering that happens as a symptom of this kind of bigotry and racism. And it didn't happen for this group, which is good, but keeping people apart really makes you not see them in their fullness of their personhood, and then that is what allows other terrible things to happen. And I just was so mad at that, and it just made me feel that so much in that way. And the thing is, I mean, America has a really complicated history with this as well. I live in a state where this was part of its history and everything, and I just, the legacy of it is just so horrible and complicated, and just forcing people apart when they are trying to be together and be together happily and peacefully and productively just really made me so mad. And so it's the opposite of what Sister Julienne did. It's the opposite of finding empathy and compassion with the other, Okay, that's it.
Here, agree. Well, next week we are going to do the recap episode.
Series recap, yeah.
Yeah, which is my favourite because I don't have to make any notes. Jen's least favourite. So we hope you can join us next week, everyone.
We'll see you then.
Bye.
See you next week.